In this video, we're going to show a game between two ChessGoals members in the London system. We have 50Cent playing the white pieces, Birdsell playing the black pieces, and this uses the ChessGoals Slav repertoire from the black side. So we can see how to beat the London. Alright, here we go. So 50Cent plays d4, Birdsell plays d5, bishop f4, knight f6, e3, e6. So in our Slav course, the ChessGoals Slav course, we do recommend sort of a triangle formation in a lot of our lines. And against the London, we recommend this kind of odd idea, bishop to d6 followed by queen to e7. So in the game we have bishop d3, bishop d6, white tends to retreat, bishop back to g3, and now queen to e7. And the idea with queen to e7 is we're actually threatening bishop takes g3, followed by queen b4, checking the king, and hitting b2. So in our ChessGoals courses, we tend to look for lines that play for the initiative, but also we look for some lines that are a bit offbeat. And this is definitely one of them, and we've seen a lot of wins already in the ChessGoals Discord where members get this line from the black side and they beat their opponents pretty quickly because the opponents don't know what to do against this queen e7 move. So it's a bit of a surprise weapon, and I think it's a fun one that you can add to your repertoire. So here 50Cent plays knight f3, and we see this trade on g3, followed by queen b4 check. So checking the king and hitting the b2 pawn. Now if you look at the Stockfish eval here, we're only looking at about a maybe minus 0.1 for black, so very slight edge for black, definitely playable for white, and white will get essentially full compensation for the pawn on b2. So this isn't over yet for white. Knight b to d2, queen takes b2, winning the free pawn. Now white's big advantage here is the development, and the second advantage that white has is potential king safety. So what white needs to do is try to castle quickly and then go after the black king. What black needs to do is get the pieces developed and get the queen to safety, and black will be up a pawn. So there's a lot of winning chances for both sides here due to these different dynamics. Whereas in a typical London, a lot of times you can get a dry position, not a lot of imbalances, and just not a lot to play for either side. So here 50 plays knight to e5, an aggressive move, but I would actually recommend maybe castling here. Castle and then go for a quick c4. Because like we were talking about, you really want to get developed, use this advantage in the development, and then attack black quickly. So castling in c4 would be my recommendation. After knight e5, Birdsell plays knight b to d7. I like this move a lot. There's an immediate threat, knight takes knight, and after pawn takes back, queen takes e5, securing a second pawn for black. So already white needs to kind of start thinking about this. How do I deal with this threat of knight takes e5? And if you look at a move like knight d to f3, there's now queen c3 check. And the king has to move because if queen d2, black wins the rook in the corner. Right, so here 50 is probably calculating that, thinking, well, I don't want to have to move my king. If knight takes d7 is played, that means this knight is moved 1, 2, 3 times to capture a knight that only moved once. So that doesn't seem ideal either for white. What else could be played? And by the way, that probably is the strongest move, knight takes d7 for white. f4 could be played, and that's what 50 played in the game. But the potential issue with f4 is it's slow, right? Like white's not getting the king to safety, and it's opening up the white king just a little bit. And here Birdsell finds a really strong move, c5. I think it shows a good understanding of the position. So now we have a lot of tactics on the board. We have dynamic play for both sides, and the threat is c takes d, and after e takes d, queen takes d4. So again, black is threatening to win another pawn. And I like how you're playing for the initiative, Birdsell, even though you're down a bit in development. I think you're really putting the pressure on white. So after c5, c4 is played. And this really opens up the center, but the white king is exposed. So black can take advantage of this and the d4 pawn could become an issue now. So 50 Cent, I would recommend maybe starting with rook b1, giving up the a pawn, and then playing c4. Because I think you had the right idea, because after this, e takes d, there's no queen takes d4, so now you have more center control, right? You're able to safely take back that pawn. So right idea, but I think prepping it with rook to b1 first would be a good option. So here Birdsell plays the best move, c takes d4, and after e takes d4, queen takes d4. Now I think this would be a good moment to mention, if you're interested in the ChessGoals Dynamic Slav course, right now we have a $10 off sale for a limited time. I'll put a link in the description with the coupon code. It's earlyslav. That gets you $10 off the course. The course comes with videos for 10 different chapters, and it covers everything except 1 e4 by white. So it gives you a complete black repertoire against everything except e4. And we have a Caro-Kann course that complements the Dynamic Slav course very well, and that covers everything after 1 e4. So $10 off right now. Check the link in the description. Here white plays knight d to f3. And now the tricky thing here is, even though black has a 3 or 4 point advantage according to Stockfish, black needs to figure out, how do I accurately convert this advantage? And there are a lot of tactics, and black is a bit behind in development still. This bishop on c8 is stuck, king still in the middle. So here we see queen c3, it's a good move, king f1. Knight takes e5. I think this move is okay, but these are superfluous knights, so the knights attack each other. I would avoid trading off one pair of these knights, and I would play for knight to c5, putting some extra pressure on the white position with knight takes d3 threatened. And if white plays rook c1, like in the game, now queen to a3. And I think knight takes d3 is a nice threat, getting rid of this bishop, because that bishop is applying pressure on h7, which could potentially become a problem. Bishop attacking the king side like that. So if we go back to the game, knight takes e5 was played. Knight takes e5 by 50 Cent. And here are Birdsell castles. And the scary thing for black here is we have this rook on h1 pointing at h7, bishop pointing at h7, queen h5 ideas, and the knights lingering over here on the king side. So castling by black here actually gave up the majority of black's advantage. So black went from like a 3-point advantage down to about a 1-point advantage, maybe even a little bit less. So here, instead of castling, I would recommend maybe d takes c4 for black. And if rook c1 is played, queen b2. And we have this c-pawn hitting d3, which is kind of nice. If white takes time to take this back, now we can go very aggressive. Bring this knight in here, hitting g3, threatening queen f2. White's actually in a lot of trouble here, because the queen for white is tied down to this rook. So like queen e1 is not a good move. Knight can still take. And if white tries to go after the queen here, let's say rook c2, there's this cool move that Stockfish says knight to d5. The idea with knight to d5 is you could fork the white king and queen, but queen to b6 is a good move as well. And if white takes this pawn now, bishop to d7, and black is starting to untangle all the pieces. And the white king is actually going to be more exposed than the black king. So 15 castle gives some of the advantage up. Rook to c1 is played. Queen to b2. Now here it's an interesting position. There are some repetition chances. Like if white plays, let's say rook to b1, queen takes a2, rook a1, queen b2, rook back. With best play, Stockfish says this is a dead draw. There's no queen to d4 because bishop takes h7 check. And moving the queen other routes could actually give white an advantage. So here there's rook to b3, and if the queen tries to escape, Stockfish says knight to g4, and we can see this h7 pawn is starting to become a problem. So once black castled kingside, all of a sudden there were these attacking chances for white on h7. So after rook c2, queen to a3 was played. Now I'm hiding the moves for a reason. Let's flip the board. Pause your video for a second. What did white play here? What did 50Cent play in this position? See if you can find it. All right. If you guessed bishop takes h7 check, you were correct. What a move by 50Cent. Bishop takes h7 check. I give it a double exclamation point. This is such a good move. After knight takes h7, queen to h5, threatening mate, queen takes knight, and this knight also guards f7. f6 was played, followed by mate, but there was no way out of checkmate in this position. And after bishop takes h7, if king h8 was played, this bishop can still come back with check. King g8. And now here, the wide open g file gives white the chance to maneuver a bit. But it's not super quick to get the win. But this is a +8 advantage. So for example, rook to h3 is a move Stockfish gives. Pawn to g4. Actually, g4 is probably the most straightforward. The threat is pawn to g5, dislodging this knight completely. But this is a +8 for white. White is completely winning. So to recap this game, around this point, black had a very large advantage, about 3 pawns. And I think this ChessGoals Slav repertoire against the London worked really well for Birdsell. But then 50Cent, just amazing comeback. Like the way that he lined up these pieces on h7, he must have been looking at the tactics. And when the opportunity presented itself, after queen a3, he found the tactic. And I took a look at bishop takes h7 and a couple other positions too. Like what about here? Could we go bishop takes h7 check here? It doesn't quite work. After knight takes h7, queen h5, this rook hangs with check. So the best move now is to go back for this draw scenario. Go for the repetition. So didn't work as well in that position. And in this position, move 16, if bishop takes h7 check, knight takes again. The queen is hitting the rook on a1. So again, this doesn't work, queen h5. And in this position, black is close to winning according to the engine. So very good timing, 50Cent. Very impressive win with the tactics. But Birdsell, I think you also played a very good game, and there were a lot of tactics there, and it only took one slip up to have this fail tactically. But I think if you keep the king in the center for a little bit longer and maybe try like that knight c5 idea, the position was yours to win at that point. You know, with best play, it should have been a win for black. But I think this was a great game, a lot of tactics, tricky position, and some good takeaways for both sides. So thanks for watching the video. We will have more videos coming up that show kind of this dynamic Slav course. And again, right now it's on sale. The videos aren't published yet, but you'll get access to the videos as soon as they're recorded. But you get the full PGN, all the moves, all the text, and videos will be coming soon. So please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Please subscribe if you're not a subscriber, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, everybody.